everybody, I am so sorry that this video took such a while to get done. I have been busy with schoolwork, but I finally got my new camcorder, which is awesome, and I am ready to talk about episode 2 of season 3, Dark Wings, Dark Words. So I decided to organize this review by location, so we are going to start off with probably the easiest section to go through, which is Beyond the Wall. In the first Beyond the Wall scene we get a scene between Mance Rayder and Jon Snow, and they're talking about how Mance has been able to unify all these clans together, because there are 90 clans in Mance Rayder's army, and they all hate each other. They're all kind of rivals. You know, everyone hates the cave people. I love that line. And how he got them all to organize is by telling them that they were going to die if they didn't go south. And that's the truth of the situation, that if they didn't unify and work together, they were going to die. And we see a hint of Mance's kind of idealism and his way of leading people. He doesn't lead them by promising them glory or honor or value. He speaks to the thing that all men can identify with, which is the will to survive, to live, to pass on. And I think that's one of the most powerful motivations. And he is also kind of still pecking at Jon. Like, even though he allowed Jon to join him in episode 1, there is still doubt about his true intentions. And I'm glad they showed up, because it would seem a little too easy for Mance to have just suddenly accepted Jon after his little speech about how he wants to serve people and be a hero. I think that this kind of doubt makes the scene more intense and shows just what Jon's going to be dealing with while he joins with these wildlings beyond the north and what that's going through. And the next scene we get beyond the north is basically Sam getting shitted on. It's basically Sam getting shitted on by the rest of the Night's Watchmen, especially Dolores Ed, because he just has no fucks to give about anything. And they're talking about how they left Sam because he was fat and he was weak and they didn't want to die, so they just left him behind. And basically, they want to leave him when Sam kind of like stops moving, until the Lord Commander basically says, it's your job to get him back home. And I thought it was a really touching scene, but also sad, because, you know, they left Sam. They left him, they ditched him, even though they're supposed to be brothers, supposed to be taking care of each other. And it's like, is Sam the weak link? Well, yes, but he's also the smartest one of that group, probably besides the Lord Commander. He's intelligent, and they need him, but they won't acknowledge that. And they just treat him like shit. And I think it's sad that he was demoted to just being a butt monkey, when at this point he should have already somewhat proved himself to the audience and the people in the Night's Watch. But I will see what they're going to do with Sam's character, because there's always a chance for them to bring back those elements that they took away from him in the Go-To adaptation. But I thought it was a really good scene to show like what Sam has to struggle with to become accepted, which is kind of similar to what Jon has to deal with his situation with the wildlings. So now we did the wall, let's go down to the north. Bran has a dream involving a three-eyed crow, and he's walking and he's, you know, aiming his bow. And the scene from the pilot where, you know, his brothers, Jon and Robb, are telling him how to aim and he misses, and then Ned says, which one of you were a marksman at 10, is like playing in the background as he's trying to attack the crow. And then he wakes up and he's traveling with Hodor and Osha and Rickon and the 2 direwolves. And we got a lot more direwolves in this episode, and I think it's good. Maybe the budget was increased so they can afford to see more special effects, especially with the direwolves this season, which I know will make some people happy. And they talk about how they have to keep going. And in Bran's dream, he saw a young boy come to him and tell him that he couldn't kill the crow because the crow was him. And then after they walk for a while, they run into this young boy, and his name is Jojen, and they meet his sister Mira, and they are the Reeds. And they tell Bran about the dreams that Jojen has and how he saw Bran in his dreams and the power that they have. And they talk about how he's, how do they call it exactly? They call him a, something green about basically his work abilities to do things. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Earlier when we were behind the wall, we met a warg whose name is Oro, and he is able to go into the minds and sights of animals, and he's also able to go and see visions, and you see a battle of the fall of the first men. So when we go to the scene with Jojen and Bran, it's reminiscent of that whole scene, and we see a more concrete idea of what Bran's powers could be in the future if he continues to work on them. So next is Theon. Basically, he is being tortured for information about why he went to Winterfell, who he was working for, and he's being, bound and tortured with these hard ways. It's a horrible scene. It's gut-wrenching. And even as someone who doesn't like Theon and gives no fucks about him, it's still sad to see him in that situation because, he's an idiot. He does this out of, his own ego. And it's sad to see him in this situation because he could have been better, but he sets himself down short. But he then is later on saved by Simon from Misfits. So the Save Me Barry memes that have come out of that have been good. Kudos to the internet. They always know how to make me laugh. So he's saved by this random man who is in the prison telling that he was sent by Yara, and they sent him out, and right now he says he's gonna come back and help save Theon. Then we go to Robb. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about the cat scene until the end because I'm saving that for my rant, but for just basically what's going on here is Robb gets two letters. One telling him that his grandfather, who's Kat's father, has just passed away. And the other one tells him about the sack of Winterfell and that the bodies of Bran and Rickon have not been recovered yet. And I think it's strange that they're still kind of playing with this idea that they might still be alive, since in the books they made it really concretely clear that by this point they think that these two characters are dead. So I am wondering why they're dragging out this part, why they decided to just ignore it. I think it'll be an interesting development. If they can do it right, we'll see. And then they decide to make a detour to go to Riverrun to go pay their respects to Lord Tully's funeral. And during the procession down, Lord Karstark is like, this is a distraction from the war effort, which is true, it is. And then, he's like, what do you like to say about this war? Do you not believe in us? He's like, I still believe in revenge, and that's what we're here for. But other than that, I have no fucks to give, sir. And because you married Talisa, we're screwed. And I love that this was finally brought up because they make it sound as though Cat freeing Jaime was the nail in the coffin. But really, Catelyn releasing Jaime is nowhere near as bad as Robb breaking his vow to another lord by marrying this woman who gives him no army and helps leave him at a disadvantage. So I'm glad that they finally brought up that, marrying Talisa, which was totally Robb's choice, was a stupid thing to do and is ruining the morale of his troops. Because so far all the blame has been solely put on Catelyn, and that's totally unfair because his actions can be conceived as worse than Cat in the long run, and we'll see how that kind of plays on. And then we get the scene where Catelyn and Talisa talk, but again, saving that for the rant. But I guess I'll save the ranty part for later to talk about the aesthetic of the scene. The scene was very well acted. Michelle Farley has really brought a lot of emotion to Kat's character, so I say, even though I don't like what was coming out of her mouth, I think that how it was interacting was very good. And if they're going to use Talisa as being the standard, I want them to focus more on making Talisa her own person, because so far she's just being kind of like a manic pixie dream nurse to Robb and being his perfect queen. But let's see how she feels about being queen, because the thing about Talisa is we have been set up to see her as someone who's against, the typical ideas of nobility and wanting to work for the people and be with the people. But now she's the queen and ordering people around and being right up in that nobility that she supposedly didn't like in the first place. So how is she transitioning from being this person who was like, I don't want to be like those other noble women, to being higher than any noble woman around her? You know, how are you doing that? How are you going to let her play both those roles? You know, if we're gonna make up this character and make her take a place, let her have something to show us who she is as a person, not just monologues about her past, because no one really cares about that. So that's Robb, that's North, that's Theon. So let's go to the Riverlands. So in the Riverlands, we have Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie, and they're first talking about how Arya failed to end the war because of the situation with Jack and Hagar, how she wasted her 3 deaths. And I think that this is kind of a thing like that the writers kind of realized that they fumbled up too by making Tywin Lannister someone that she interacted with in last season, because last season it wasn't Tywin Lannister. So that's why the idea never popped into her head to kill Jaqen last season. So, I mean, in the books itself, but now that she was interacting with Tywin Lannister on a daily basis, their whole little speeches about, you know, Daddy, her little grandpa, you know, fireside chats with Tywin just seem really silly. But at the same time, it also kind of shows that Arya is still a kid. She doesn't know how to do everything right because she's still a little girl. She isn't the smartest person, although she's very capable of thinking on her feet. So she didn't think of that until it was too late, and she feels that kind of guilt for it. And I thought this was a good way of at least bringing up that issue, even though I think that it was a little clumsily done. And then she ends up meeting with Thoros of Myr and some other guys from the Brotherhood Without Banners, who was mentioned back in season 2. Tywin was trying to find them and kill them because they were kind of like, they are Brotherhood Without Banners. They don't work for any side, any specific teams. There's kind of like, you know, rogues that are kind of in the way. And they take them to an inn, and they say that they're going to release her and the whole group right after. Unfortunately, but fortunately for reasons I love him, some guys walk in with Sandor Clegane, aka the Hound, and Arya tries to like walk past him. I'm like, girl, he is 7 feet tall. Not really. He is 7 feet tall. You are gonna get spotted, and she got spotted real quick. So that was on a cliffhanger of what's gonna happen now that they have someone who's important to both the people in King's Landing and the North. You know, because Arya is a good pawn for any side to have because she can be bargained whichever way that's whoever's choosing can do so. So that was really good. Then we got Brienne and Jaime road trip. Road trip. We got lots of awesome banter. Hints about Brienne's feelings towards Renly. It's very clear she had really strong affection for Renly. And we see Jaime kind of being like, well, you know he didn't like girls, right? I kind of feel like they up the homophobia in the show because they know that people expect and allow for certain things when it's in like a medieval time setting. So it's like everything he's saying is about how like if the throne ran out of cock, you would never got him off of it and blah blah. And then it ends with Jaime talking about how you can't help who you love. And I thought that was a really like small insight into what Jaime feels. And I hope that they don't just make Jaime joke throughout the entire road trip, because even though he's funny, this was what was great about his POV was how we got inside of his head and got to talk. Not inside him, but how we get to see so many different layers of him. And I know that's hard to do because Jaime just wouldn't be monologuing the entire time he's on this journey, but I do hope they find a way to incorporate his thoughts and feelings about how he sees himself and his society into the show, because I think that's really the place where a lot of people who didn't care for Jaime before really learn to love Jaime as a character. And the other part that happens is they meet a man on the road, and Brienne doesn't kill him, even though Jaime says that she should. And the thing that made me frustrated with this scene was because in the last season they showed that Brienne had no problem killing those 3 guys in such a cruel, bloody manner. It could call into the question why she chooses not to kill this guy now. Now, as a book reader, I know that Brienne doesn't kill anyone up until later than the point that's in the series, later in the part we reach in the series. But since they've upped her being able to kill easier and not have that kind of emotional kind of thing with killing and how it doesn't affect her, they took away kind of her naivety and just make her more of a hardcore fighter, because I think they're just easier for them to put into the show. So even though I understand that Brienne wouldn't kill so easily, because that's how I know her from reading it, in the show context, it looks silly for her not to do it. I mean, you can get the moral quandary of it, but at the same time, it's, you did kill 3 guys before, why not just at least incapacitate this one man? And I don't know, that's personally how I thought. I wonder how other people feel about it. Maybe just might be me not really thinking it gels that well, but however other people think about it, it's fine. And then Jaime and Brienne fight, and it's awesome. Jaime is like, I'm gonna take her, and Brienne's like, shh, boy, please, don't even try. I'm like 5 feet taller than you. Stop the madness. And they have like this great fight scene, and then these soldiers come across the bridge, and they are basically surrounded. And it's implied that they're gonna get caught, so we'll see what happens with them next week. And Jaime and Brienne road trip is like the highlight of my day. Like, it's so well acted. There's so much stuff being said between them. It's just great little scenes, and I'm loving it so far. I hope they don't disappoint me. Come on, Jaime and Brienne road trip is what I've been dying to see all season. Alright, and then King's Landing, where we get kind of like 3 really well done scenes. 4 actually. First, we get this scene with Joffrey and Cersei, where Joffrey's trying on these clothes, trying to make himself look all like, he's trying to like peacock himself, like, I'm a man, I'm a real man. I don't need no flowers. I ain't a bitch. I don't need shit. And I'm just like, boy, you need to stop playing around, trying to act like you so hard. You can't do shit. Everyone knows you run the darn Blackwater. Stop fronting. And Cersei's trying to be like, look, Joffrey, Marjorie, she tried to lick your balls, and she's playing you, and you need to pay attention. And Joffrey's like, Mom, I can handle this, okay? I don't need you telling me what to do. You're ruining my life. I hate you. I wish Dad was here. Oh, wait, not really, because then I wouldn't be king. But he basically undermines everything that Cersei says. She's trying to warn him about how Marjorie is playing him, which is an audience know is true. But she's kind of like, smart women do as they're told. And Cersei's kind of like, this bitch. And I think that although them showing Cersei acknowledging that Joffrey is flawed is not really how her character is, I think it adds for a really good, I think it makes her more interesting in some regards, because she loves Joffrey, and she also needs Joffrey, because she can't have any of her power without him being king. And as her power is slipping away and to someone who she can't control, because it was easy to control Sansa. Sansa had no money, her family couldn't do shit to her, they weren't getting shit from Sansa that would risk them. They weren't getting anything from Sansa that was important that Sansa couldn't be harmed. Marjorie, however, cannot be harmed. If they touch Marjorie, they're going to be fucked. So Cersei can't do the thing that she do. And she also feels no bonds for Marjorie the way she can at least feel for Sansa, because of Sansa being in a shitty situation, whereas Marjorie's kind of like, you stepping on my space. There can only be one queen. You need to go. She's going to be like Henry VII's mother and just be like up on it. I'm just like, girl, Marjorie, it's going to be a war. But, so Joffrey is not having his mama at all. And then we get a scene with Sansa going to meet Marjorie and the Queen of Thorns, Olenna Tyrell. And this was a marvelous scene. It was pretty much lifted almost completely from the book, exception with the fools singing loudly so that no one would hear them. And, they prompt Sansa to tell them the truth about Joffrey. And you see Sansa's hesitation, which is obvious because she doesn't know if she can trust these people. They mean nothing to her. And if she tells them the truth and Marjorie cancels the wedding, she could be right back to marrying Joffrey, and her plans could go down the shitter to escape. But in the end, she does her best by finally being able to verbalize to somebody who isn't Shae who Joffrey is and how frustrating it has been for her in a situation what he's capable of. And it was just kind of like this cathartic release. You could see her just kind of like, should I say something, should I not? But when she finally does say something, kind of like, and the line she says about how like, my father always told the truth and they took his head. And it's so true, because even the truth can end up killing you. And I think that it also shows how Sansa is not as naive as she used to be. Because what I think is kind of like, you know, the pro and con of what they do with Sansa in the show is that I do love her relationship with Shae. Even though Shae confuses me because I don't know how they're going to work with her later on, the fact that they have a very female positive relationship on the show is great, and I love it. But I also feel like they use Shae as a way to keep Sansa very openly naive. Now, Sansa is still very romantic and hopeful, and that's great, but she's no longer the girl who can be manipulated by the Lannisters. I mean, she still is a pawn in a lot of ways, but she also is much more aware of herself now. So I don't think she would have needed to have, you know, someone tell her that Peter Baelish probably wasn't looking out for number one. She would have already thought that. So while I love Shae and Sansa's relationship as friends, I also don't like that they will sometimes use those relationships as a way to keep Sansa permanently 12 when she is beyond that point. But other than that, I love their friendship, and I love this scene in general. I love how like the Queen of Thorns is a true matriarch, and I think that this scene also shows why Marjorie is the way she is and why Sansa isn't. Because a lot of people will compare Sansa and Marjorie, like, why can't Sansa just do what Marjorie does? And it's like, well, Marjorie has been trained by people who know what the fuck they are doing. You know, she was trained by someone who taught her how to manipulate men, people, and the common folk. So Marjorie came into the situation knowing how to maneuver herself, or Sansa had to learn in the Lion's Den itself. And now we see exactly where Marjorie learned her skills from, and why she is on point right now, getting money, getting bitches, effing up your life, Cersei. So that was great. Then we go to a scene with Sansa and Tyrion, and it's like, Sansa and Tyrion's relationship in the show is so different that it's its own complete thing. And if I just separate everything, I love their relationship in the show because it's probably one of the nicest relationships that we have in the show between two people. And Shae goes to Tyrion to ask for them to look out for Sansa because she knows that Peter Baelish is a crazed pervert and probably has the worst intentions. And I love the line about, you know, what idiot would trust Peter Baelish, and then we all sing back to Ned. Just that scene, it was a cute scene, you know, the kind of banter of Shae being the jealous girlfriend. But I hope that it was just kind of like that little moment, and they're not going to turn her into like the crazy, spiteful ex, especially with how things will go. So I'm hoping that they won't turn Shae into like a harpy or a shrew. Trying to like, if they're going to make their relationship sweet and cute, if they just go through with it. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with Shae because the changes with her are so explicit and so different from what it was that I'm actually quite interested and invested in what they're going to do with it, because I really do like TV Shae. Even though I don't hate book Shae, I just think that they're two completely different people and bring two different things to the plate. And then finally, in King's Landing, we get a scene with Joffrey and Marjorie, where Joffrey probably gets the biggest boner of his life, because he brings in Marjorie and asks her, you know, about her relationship with Renly, what she thinks her role as a wife should be, and she talks about how Renly was a degenerate and how he wanted to have sex with her anally, and you know, about how because he was gay he couldn't have sex with Marjorie. And then, you know, Joffrey's playing with his crossbow, which me and my friend have already said is his penis, and Marjorie's like playing with it like, oh, it looks so nice. I'm like, girl, you know what you're doing, work it. And then there's a scene where Joffrey's explaining to her like how it has this new thing, so there's no like crank to do the crossbow anymore, and he shoots this taxated head off the wall, on the eyes out of it, and then he gives it to Marjorie, and she's like, it must be so exciting to, you know, point at something over there and watch it die. And Joffrey's like, where have you been all my life? And then Marjorie asks, do you think I could kill somebody? And Joffrey's like, yes, and the audience is all like, Fuck yes, she would. And that is basically all the major things that happened this episode. Yep, because I wrote it all down. So I think this was a really great episode. I think that it was just so dynamic and so many things were going on, and it didn't drag for me. The Theon stuff was a surprise because I didn't think they were going to bring him back so early. But I love this episode overall. Disappointed about the cat stuff, which, trust me, I'm going to get to in just a moment. But overall, this was a very dynamic, strong episode. Got a lot of character building moments, did a lot of really interesting things, and set up stuff really well. And I guess for me, with Game of Thrones, I love the setup. I love the developments that they do because it all leads up to something. And I guess I'm just enjoying watching this and knowing what it's leading up to and still being invested anyway. Like, even though I know what is probably going to happen because of the changes, it's probably not so sure. I'm still invested. I still don't care that I know because it's still great watching it come alive. And I think that's one of the reasons why, despite its flaws, Game of Thrones is one of my favorite adaptations, despite problems. But now let me get to my cat rant, because that speech, oh my god, Warlord, help me, because that was just the hottest of messes. And that, okay, for those of you who just watch the show and don't read the books, Catelyn has never been a particularly popular character. She has often been hated because of the thing with Tyrion, because of letting Jaime go, and first and foremost for hating Jon Snow. And I'm not even gonna get into the last two because I think that there are things that can be said about why all of those three reasons are kind of flawed. But then again, I don't care who you like or dislike, that's not the point. What this speech was supposed to do was to appease people who hated her for disliking Jon Snow. And all I have to say is fuck that noise. It does not matter if she loves, hates, or doesn't shit on Jon Snow. Who cares? Certainly not Cat. Jon doesn't give a fuck that much. Like, yes, Catelyn was cold to Jon Snow. Yes, Catelyn didn't want Jon Snow to be there. Yes, when she was tired and exhausted because she thought her son was going to die, she said, I wish you had fell instead. Yes, she did all of that. But you know what? Doesn't make her fucking evil. Doesn't make her some person who also wanted her dead. That's the only thing I don't understand. So, even though Martin has said in interviews that Catelyn never abused Jon, she just was very adamant with the fact, like, I know this is your bastard, man. I know you love him, but I don't want him here with our kids because of how it could fuck up our children's claim and all of that junk. And also because you disrespect me by having him here. That's it. That's what it comes down to. She does not like Jon because he's illegitimate. Yes. She doesn't want that another woman slept with her husband. But beyond that, Jon being raised in their household with their family is a risk to the claimancy of her children. Jon would be fine if he just went somewhere else. Just send him to another place to be raised, not with our kids, not in our house. That was her whole shtick, you know? So, because of that one time where she was like, fuck you to him because she was emotionally distraught about Bran, and she had no filter, she said it should have been you. And people have taken that line and have taken that to mean she was an evil bitch who hated him and wanted him dead. And I'm just like, where do you see those two connecting? Don't get me wrong, her hating Jon Snow is a flaw. It is a character flaw that she has, and that's her thing, and let it be. Let it be. Because that's what it is. This is a show where every single fucking character has a flaw. Most, for that matter, much worse than hers. But the fact that she hates Jon is seen as this horrible, horrible thing that she becomes a bitch and a cunt and a terrible mother because she doesn't love a kid that's not her own. As if she's supposed to, as if she is somehow required to care about him just because her husband brought him home. Fuck that, okay? And the thing about it too is like, the scene itself in the show would not have been bad if they had not added two things. One, her praying for him to be dead, because that's just stupid, and there's no evidence for that, and it is irrelevant. It is horrible, and it's stupid. It's done there to bring her to a degree that she is not. And the other thing is to say that she is responsible for the downfall of her family because she did not love Jon Snow. What? Really? Really? She's responsible for the downfall of her family because she could not love a kid that wasn't her own? Is this really what we're trying to say? And this brings me back to my whole video I made about motherhood a while back, about how we perceive motherhood. If you are not this all-encompassing heart, you are a failed mother. Meanwhile, Ned never told Jon who his mother is, but he cool. Robert treats all his children like shit, but he cool. Jaime don't do shit for his children. We rarely see fathers in this show be good fathers to their children, and yet Catelyn don't like a kid that's not her son, but she doing the most. What? I didn't. And the fact that they put this in to make her more likable, why does it matter if she's more or less likable? She is who she is. Do not change her character because you think it'll appeal to more viewers when it's not the way it is. It's like how people want to make superheroes that aren't dark because people like that, you know? No, stop it. There will be people who hate Superman and Captain America. Let it be. Don't change them because you want to make them cool. That's not what people are here to see. And it was just a disrespectful scene because it's pure character assassination. That's not who she is. This is not what she cares about. Those are not her values. She doesn't give a shit about Jon Snow. And the very idea that she would ask Ned to let Jon be legitimate is bull fucking shit. Tell the words: family, duty, honor. Family, duty, honor. She would not allow Jon Snow to be legitimized because after Robb is the oldest born because she got pregnant with Robb before Ned went to war. If we were going with the theory that Jon is Ned's biological child, Ned had to have had him after he left to go to war. So that means Jon is younger than Robb. If they make Jon legitimate, that knocks out Sansa, Bran, Arya, Rickon. No. She would never allow her own children to be fucked over for Jon Snow. No. Family, duty, honor. Jon Snow ain't none of them shits. She don't care about him. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It is not a huge deal. Jon is not traumatized by that. His issues are from being a bastard. And you know whose fault for him being a bastard is? Ned. Not Catelyn. Not nobody else. If Jon is Ned's child, then Jon's issues in life are his father's fault. Done. Because Cat didn't make him a bastard. That's just his life because his daddy. So we need to cut this shit out. It's stupid and it is complete. It's a complete perversion of what Catelyn is, what her values are, and if you don't like it because she don't like Jon Snow, that's you. But it doesn't matter if there's no reason for her to have a whole monologue about how she failed her family and everyone because she didn't love this goddamn child. No. Sorry, not having it. Move on, people. Stop. Anyway, looking forward to episode 3 because we're going to have more of people I like in it, and let's keep it going.